Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory, and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table, and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 128, Sir Larl the Blue Digger. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Kay Laird's table in the Levitating Platter. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. I've got a wonderful returning guest this week, but before I get to my guest, I gotta leave you in suspense with the ad read. This episode is brought to you by Plus One EXP and their brand new RPG Zine Club. Zine Club is a monthly membership subscription service featuring fresh zines from emerging and expanding creators across the globe. It's our way of inviting GMs, players, and zine lovers everywhere to invest more intentionally in the creative community. It's crowdsourced support without crowdfunding. So this service offers monthly releases that they put out in two 20 to 44 page saddle stitch zines. 3 different flavors. Take your pick from story zines, adventure zines, and all of the zines. You can pick your format of print and digital, or just get digital only for your favorite titles. Join the Clubhouse Discord section of the Plus One EXP community on Discord. Get the best prices guaranteed from your subscription that you're going to get each month. You get a private subscription portal where you can manage your subscription, add products, or change your information. Change your frequency monthly, every other month, something else. You pick how often you want these new titles to arrive. You only get what you want. And if you miss a month, why, you can always go back and add a title to your recent month's order. Get an annual surprise each February after your first anniversary. Get access to special content with interviews, how to play videos, special content for Zine Club titles. Get a free pizza if you fill out one of the RPG Zine Club passports, or redeem it for a free pizza at events where Tony is present himself. You're going to get access to new and known designers, the best voices from across the RPG design community. And know that Plus One EXP and RPG Zine Club curate their zines based on community interest and feedback to help you discover your new favorite creators. There's a DIE focus because Plus One is committed to championing diversity, inclusion, and equity in their projects. Creators with diverse experiences make our community better. So Zine Club prioritizes creating equity for all of our creators. And it's more than a purchase. Your subscriptions will let us invest more heavily in our print partners and provide them with potentially life-changing support by consolidating scores or hundreds of purchases as the club grows. So, if you want to learn more, I would recommend that you go to the website rpgzine.club. Again, rpgzine.club. And if you want, go to plusoneexp.com. And when you're buying stuff on that site, beard balms or lip balms or beard RPGs or whatnot, and you need a discount code at checkout, be sure to use the code Randolph, RANDOLPH, at checkout and get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, website is plusoneexp.com, and the Zine Club website is rpgzine.club. All right, and without much further ado, hello, mystery contestant. Would you care to reintroduce yourself? Tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do?
Hi, I am Kay, and I have not been on the podcast since 2020. So it's been quite a while, and the majority of a pandemic
Yes.
as well. So if you have listened to my previous episode, I believe I said I was a liquor rep that did bookkeeping on the side. I am no longer a liquor rep. I am full-time working as a bookkeeper with a literacy company. So completely different life change. I also bought a house.
Congrats.
So doing that, all that fun life stuff that comes with home ownership.
Yes, as did we. Yes, we got a house as well, and all the challenges and the joys that come with it.
I've had 2 floods, and let me tell you, that was not something I had on my bingo card for the last 5 years.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I think I may have some foundation stuff I have to deal with, so you have my utmost sympathies.
Oh no.
Before this veers horribly off track into some sort of homeowner podcast, that's not what this is about. This is all about Dungeons and Dragons, and because Kay is a returning guest, we always like to go back through the questions and kind of like revisit them in a new context, in a new light. So you're doing the bookkeeping. That's cool. So have you been able to play any D&D or other TTRPGs in the interim since the last time we spoke in ye olden days?
Yes. Okay. So a few years ago, I was playing an online 5th edition campaign. That has since ended, unfortunately. And I've scheduled a new game with some of my current friends, but we've been playing Pathfinder and a JRPG style D20 system called Fabula Ultima. So it's very different than 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a collaborative system where players help drive the story as well as the DM.
Interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool.
We sit down and actually help the DM build the world as opposed to having him do everything.
I feel like for the games of D&D that I run, that's pretty much like how I do it. But this game specifically is like, no. Players and the game master literally have to work together to build the entire world.
Right. It's built right into the mechanics. So whereas with a really great homebrew campaigns, you are going to have a collaborative nature between your players and your DM.
Mm-hmm.
Fabula Ultima builds it right in. So the transition's a little bit more organic.
Pretty cool. And if I'm not mistaken, or as I recall from our first interview that we did, because you're a mutual of good old Joseph Picard there, and that's who you were playing the game with, right? When you were saying the online game that you were in?
Yes. Yeah. Joseph was playing Tavish, who was our cleric.
Yeah.
And I was playing Hollyhawk, who was our ranger assassin.
Yeah, and as well, if you go back in the back catalog and you listen, episode number 18 is Tavish. So if you want an NPC version of Tavish, you can throw him into your game. So good times, and of course, getting to hear Esther Van Missive, who I wonder, we discussed before we started recording, like, oh, we'll do some random dice rolls. So I don't know how tempted you are to just immediately just commit to a bit of a character and then do the whole character creation part as the character, because that was definitely very unique, and I think that's what makes that episode endearing, is that like you commit to the bit, and like we actually hear the character themselves describe their name and their personality traits and all that.
I was so nervous. It was the only way I could get my head on straight, was to just, it happened and you didn't stop me.
Right. Well, see, now you've made it through a whole episode, and I'm sure you've listened to the entire back catalog, so you know how easy and chill this whole experience is meant to be. So no pressure whatsoever. No
nerves. Well, okay, not gonna lie, there are still nerves, but a reasonable number of nerves.
Reasonable. Yes, that's what we hope for. So
reasonable.
There we go. So great to hear that you're getting an opportunity to play all these games. And of course, with the name of this podcast, we always like to ask the questions about sidekicks and side quests. So since August of 2020, when we actually spoke, your episode releasing sometime later the following year, June of 21. But since those times, have you come across any new or interesting NPC or sidekick characters, and why has this new character caught your interest?
So I've been watching X-Men 97 recently. I know this is not a D&D character necessarily, but the nostalgia I am feeling because I grew up on the X-Men Evolution generation. I'm actually really enjoying what they're doing with Storm this time around, because I really don't think they covered her character or gave her as much of an arc in the older series. Of course, I didn't go back and watch them before watching 97, so I could be wrong, but I'm really enjoying watching her come into her own and really having stand out episodes and even standalone episodes, as opposed to being, she is like an amazing team player, of course, but it's just good to see her doing more.
And I know I've tried to go back and rewatch the original X-Men animated show. I was like, oh, because right, the X-Men 97's out, and I've been seeing all the stuff on social media about it, and everyone's, you know, talking about it. So it's like, oh, I need to go back, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to like watching all the old ones. I might have to find one of these YouTube videos that's like, here, we're going to condense, you know, 70 some odd episodes of cartoon television down into the most important points that you need to know.
Yeah. And thinking of that, just to quickly touch on, this is a spoiler. The episode with Jubilee where she meets her older self is one of my favorites, because again, there's a character that didn't get much time in the original series and is getting more time now.
Very cool. All the cool things that we enjoyed as kids coming back around and a new light for a new generation. So wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And then kind of the same thing, the other side of the coin, the other side of the card, if we're talking about Gambit. But what's been an interesting or new side quest or B plot element that's really stuck out to you in these years, and why has it captured your imagination?
I'm going to pull from my current game. We had no money going as characters going into this grand adventure, and we realized very quickly that we were going to run into trouble. So because we were quote unquote fugitives, we chose to make money going to a place that is considered taboo to a lot of the communities, which was a shrine to the dead who had not been laid to rest yet, because they had some kind of unfinished business that they wanted to attend to. So we walked up to this, and it was a very Japanese motif based on what the DM described. We walked to this temple and were met by a radish spirit who, without speaking, led us off to this well to go pick a quest. And as soon as one of our characters touched it, this band wrapped around their arm. And the longer it took us to complete the quest, the more of their arm it took over. It wasn't a quest that needed to be done immediately, but the consequences, we had no idea what they were. So it was just find the thing that caused my death and destroy it. And we were like, oh, that's vague. Great. Okay. And we did. It turned out to be a wind spirit, and we did find it, and we did destroy it. But it was nerve-wracking because it was only affecting the time clock was really only affecting one member of our party. So it wouldn't have necessarily been a consequence for the rest of us, but for her, she would have been, I don't know, ghosted.
And so you said the band wrapped around and it would travel up the arm. Is it a matter of like it constricting around the arm, or like a necrotizing sort of effect? It just travels further and further up the arm.
Necrotizing. So if you think where it is a JRPG game, it's based quite a bit off Japanese culture, Japanese animation. So if you think of Studio Ghibli's, it's not Spirited Away, it's Princess Mononoke I'm thinking of, where the main character takes a necrotic curse, that's the right word, necrotic curse that's slowly eating away at him and taking him over. Yeah, that's what it was. It was worrying.
Yeah, I could imagine so, yeah. But very cool. And then let's see, then the way we end or round out the personal interview section, what is a new passion or hobby that you've picked up in the last few years, or puppy dogs? And why is this new hobby or passion stuck?
I'll talk about her briefly, because I did work at a kennel for a while, working with other people's dogs to get myself, I didn't realize it, but it was to get myself ready for dog ownership. So a year after we bought the house, I got Scarlet, who is a extra large German Shepherd. And when I say extra large, I mean 80 pounds and comes up to, for context, my hip, and I'm 5'7". So she's not a small dog. But other than that, gardening. I really, really have come to enjoy gardening. It was always a goal with home ownership to try to get at least partially self-sustaining with a garden.
Mm-hmm.
We have not been successful yet, but you've got to grow into it. It's not, gardening is not something you're going to learn overnight. You're going to learn as you go. And this year's supposed to be a drought year, so this is probably going to be my most challenging year yet. Thank goodness I seem to be able to grow potatoes because I have about 200 pounds of them going into the ground this year.
Hey, I mean, if the Irish and Samwise Gamgee can make the potatoes last, then you're in good company. Well, that's awesome. You likewise, I went into some new after the house getting a dog. We went the opposite way because we have old cats and a toddler. So we ended up getting Bishop, who is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So he's a little dog, but he's perfect in size against my toddler and my cats. And he's just a big old happy, excited to meet people and snuggly bug. So we love him. And as well, yeah, we're trying our hand at gardening as well. And yeah, like you said, it's something that you learn and pick up over time. And it's a project my wife is more doing than I am, but I help where I can, or I ask, or I do the things that I'm asked or told that I need to go do outside. So I say, yes, dear, and then I go and do it, as any good husband should. But yeah, hopefully all that experience we got from all those hours that we put into like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley and stuff like that would like translate over into real life to help us.
Yeah, those 3-day carrots, just I can't seem to get them going.
All right, well, it's been great here in the catch-up section of the personal interview part of the show. That now I think it's time we head into some NPC creation. And NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now is the time of the show where we give a loud hurrah, a shout out to our awesome sponsors that are our patrons. So to you, Katie Downey, aka Goblin Katie, the queen of our Patreon, as well as our other wealthy tiered level members, including Anson Jablinski, and then good old mom and dad, we say cheers. Again, all these fine folks donate at least $2 or more a month to be shouted out, give it a loud huzzah on every episode. You could easily do that too, but these folks have gone above and beyond, and because they're at least wealthy, that means they get to introduce an element of chance, which we get to use here in our random tables, which we might get to hear some of these selections used today. So if you want to learn more, just go to the show notes below, go to my podcast website, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests to learn about our accommodations that are awaiting for you within the doors of the Levitating Platter. Help us to expand our operations in this demiplane and worlds beyond. So last time, Kay, when you were on the show, you had a character all in mind. And, as we alluded to earlier, you did a brilliant job of breathing a life into that character. You've now, had an opportunity to listen to the show, had some time. You're feeling anxious. You're ready to roll some dice. You're ready to randomize an NPC today. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I came into this with no plan because I haven't rolled physical dice in years. So I'm rolling physical dice tonight.
There we go. We'll get the cobwebs off, get the bones moving with the bones that are dice. So we begin this process, of course, with a name. So what is going to be the name of our character today? Let's determine that with a D20.
D20. Okay. And I have never rolled these dice before, so I have no idea what their personality is.
6. Ooh, another 6 repeat from last episode. So your suggestion was brought forward by previous guest, my cousin Seth Krenwelge, Sir Larl. So Sir, S-I-R, and then Larl, which is L-A-R-L. Sir Larl.
Sir Larl.
There we go. All right. And then let's see. The next thing we get to roll for is the ancestry of our character. So let's roll a D100 or 2D10s for that same effect.
71.
71 as I scroll down the list. Ooh, okay. So Sir Larl is a slaad. What flavor of slaad would you like? Blue, death, gray, green, or red?
Oh, I have no idea what they are, actually.
So, from our previous episode that we did with the famous critter artist Lauren Walsh, who also rolled up a randomized slaad, if I recall from that episode, the blues and the reds tend to be kind of like the more thuggish sorts of slaads. The green ones are the spellcasters. The gray ones are a step above that. And then the death slaads are like the black ones are like the head honcho, like big boss sorts of slaads.
I think we'll do blue.
Blue. Okay, so we have a blue slaad named Sir Larl. Okay. And then let's see, what is going to be the job or role in society that this blue slaad has? Let's roll a regular D10 and see what we get.
Big money, no whammies. 40.
Oh, so 4. Okay.
Oh, sorry, 4.
Yeah. Like, I've only got 10 choices. I don't know how we got to 40.
Oh,
Wonderful. So your answer was suggested by our Patreon supporter, my dad, Wayne Krenwogi. So Sir Larl is a digger or a mole man. So apparently is involved in like tunnel excavations or something to that effect. Digger, mole man.
dig holes.
Diggy diggy hole, as one might say.
I like to dig. What are you doing? Digging.
And then let's see, what is the age range of our character? Let's roll a D8 and we'll get like a broad category range.
This one is definitely a D8 this time.
Okay.
5.
5, midlife. So we have a middle-aged blue slaad, Sir Larl, who is a digger, aka a mole man. So with all of these details in mind, when you think Sir Larl, that's a blue slaad, that's a digger mole man, that's middle-aged, can you describe the physical appearance of Sir Larl?
Well, I would... we did say they tend to be a little bit beefier.
Yes.
Blue slaads. So I would say he is short, but big dude.
Stout.
So just very comfortable with tight spaces despite his broad shoulders. I would say he's always dirty all the time and probably has beat up hands from just working with digging tools, shovels, pickaxes, and the like.
Yeah, no. And then I'm showing a picture to Kay just to kind of give her an idea of some of the 5e art that they have for the blue slot. So yeah, that guy definitely looks like, yeah, I just dig tunnels, you know.
I don't even know if he needs tools.
He does have the claws, which those are bone hooks that protrude from the back of a blue slaad's hands that inflict a terrible transformative disease on humanoids wounded by them. This infection, called chaos phage, transforms its victims into a fully grown red slaad or green slaad if the host was a spellcaster able to cast 3rd level spells or higher. So yeah, these dudes are nasty, kind of like a zombie in a way. Like they, instead of a bite, it's more of like a scratch. But yeah, if they scratch you and they infect you and you don't take care of it or you don't realize it, you're going to have like an alien's chest burster thing sort of happening as these slaad tadpoles kind of eat their way out from the inside.
Oh, wow. Okay. I love this.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely large size category, large boys. So is Sir Larl part of like an organized slaad group community? Is he solo or like, you know, I'm just curious of how the name Sir Larl came about.
That kind of sounds like a nickname that a community would give a cryptid or a creature. So I would say he is solo and is just, hey, don't go into that cave. That's Sir Laurel's cave. And, you know, if you go in there, you're going to turn into a slaad. Like, he will get you.
Ah, okay. So he's a solo slaad that just lives in this nearby cave. He's digging holes. Okay. Is there something that you think he's looking for, maybe? Because I know it talks about how slaads have like elemental gems within them or something like that like help to make them. And there is a magic item that you can get that's like, if you get like the corresponding color, it's like you can use it to like control a slaad or summon a slaad of that color or something like that. So, is he looking
He's
for something? Is it like, oh, I'm just part of my chaotic nature, I'm just gonna like camp out here and make a home, so then when the other slaads start showing up or all these tadpoles start erupting out of people, now we've got like our own base that we can set up, kind of a thing.
he's digging his scary family home, but he's also collecting the stones of his color so that no one can come and control him. He's trying to
Oh, so this
amass
cave is like
little
full of
gems.
sapphires and other blue sorts of crystals and stuff like that, and he doesn't know better necessarily that like they're not
I would
slaad.
say he doesn't really. What's their intelligence like?
Oh yeah, it says their intelligence is a 7, so they have a -2 modifier for a base blue slaad. Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Okay, so I would say it's like anything blue. So he's probably got blue glass bottles and blue glass and maybe some actual gemstones, but he doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, he was sent here and he's got his job to do. He's like the forward operating base. He's got to clear it so then that way everyone else can show up behind him.
Yeah. What are you doing, Sir Larl? Digging.
Does he interact much with like the other nearby townsfolk and stuff like that? Or like they treat him like a monster and like he utters a noise and they translate it as Laurel, or they hear it. Now we're getting into that meme a couple years ago where it's like Yanni or Laurel or something like that. So Laurel so that's Sir Laurel. Sometimes we hear
like
Yanni
that.
for some reason, but no, Laurel. And then they know to stay away from the cave because if they go in there, they're going to get caught up.
Yeah. And in case you do chance to encounter him, if you have glass or clear blue items on you, you can give those to him. He will hopefully leave you alone because he's so distracted by the blue thing that he takes that with him and puts it in his stash. So this is where something blue is really helpful.
And now I'm getting some Eiffel 65. I'm blue. Dabu dee, dabu die. That's his little song that plays at his head. It's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And it's just that song on repeat while he's doing his work. But I just was thinking of a GM or a DM sticking like fun blue colored, magic items and stuff like that. Like he's like, I don't know what this is. I don't care. It's like, oh, it just happens to be like a blue +1 magic sword or something like that. Like all these other sorts of random magic items, but they all just happen to be blue or something.
Yeah, it's a wand with a blue crystal in it. And he was like, oh, yoink.
Perfect. Okay.
Or he pulled it off of adventurers that he had got.
Right. Yeah. The adventurers that served as the hosts for the tadpoles. So it sounds like maybe then based on that, there's probably other slaad in the area as well. So it's like starting to slowly turn into a proper like slaad camp or base, if you will. But Sir Larl's there just doing the hard work, and the reds and the greens, if they're spellcasters, are patrolling and maybe trying to do more of the logistical work. But all the reds and the greens, because those would be the ones that would be being produced, unless the red ones are actually capturing and making tadpoles, and that's how they get more blue guys. Because it's a weird thing where they switch. So it's like blues make red or green, but then reds make blue. I don't know if they make green. I'll have to look that up later. But anyway, yeah. So we've slowly got an ecosystem building up. So, okay, very cool. Do you think that covers all of the physical description of Sir Larl, or were there any other details you were wanting to add?
Guess we should add, because folks aren't going to be able to see the picture.
Sure.
So we did say he was short in stature and quite beefy for digging. Probably unusual for his species because they seem to be quite a large creature.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a little guy, but obviously a very dangerous little guy. So his claws wouldn't be nearly as long as the rest of his species because he's digging. He's constantly wearing them down. So they're they would tend to be a little bit shorter. And he's probably we already talked about him being beat up because he's in the caves. I would think that his teeth are kind of broken up too. He's just a rough looking fella.
So like a proper miner, he's just chewing on things to test them to see if they're the right mineral consistency and stuff.
Right. Oh, and he's got to check the quality of his blue items. So that's how he's doing it, is just chomping on them with his poor teeth.
Oh man, the slaad dentist who has to take care of this guy. Yeah.
He's real trouble.
And if you had to describe Sir Larl with 3 adjectives, what 3 adjectives would you use?
He's focused. Definitely focused on the task at hand, almost to a point of having blinders on.
Mm-hmm.
Gullible, poor guy.
Yeah.
He accepts just about any clear blue item. And this is tough.
He's focused, he's gullible, yet what?
I think he's probably got a short temper. He's furious. So when you interrupt what he's doing, he's very quick to just take you out because he wants to go back to digging.
Right, he's got his mission. Busy. He's focused. Yeah.
Gotta do my thing.
Perfect. All right, so we're getting an idea of Sir Larl. And of course, we like all of our NPCs to have something cool on their person, and we get to do some more dice rolling again. So what is a valuable item, piece of lore, secret, or ideal or concept that Sir Larl would ascribe to? So this is the combination where we get to do a D4 for the category and then a D6 for the particular thing.
Okay. Excuse my rattling dice here. The caltrop that I've stepped on 10 million times. Oh, a 2.
Okay, 2 is a piece of lore, and then a D6 for the nugget of wisdom or information.
D6. 3.
3. Aha. Okay, so your answer was provided by previous guest, Max Chiquino. Okay, so this bit of lore, now strap in for this one, because this is a juicy piece of lore. The Crimson Solstice, a prophesized event where the full moon turns a blood red and countless undead will rise from the earth. The horde will then rampage across the realm, destroying everything in their path. It is said that holy relics exist in the world that can be used to prevent this catastrophe. So it seems like our boy Sir Larl is well aware of the Crimson Solstice that's been long prophesized.
That's why they're digging a hole to get away into the tunnels. I'm not sure if that's normal behavior for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, is it something based on the chaotic nature, or that he has this piece of wisdom, or as you're saying, he's digging the holes in preparation for when the undead will rise, and then the slaad that are invading this world, at least, well, they'll be safe. They won't turn into zombie versions of themselves. They'll be well tucked away. But then I guess that may be only half the problem, because if the undead are going to rise, well, suddenly the slaads are having to compete now for hosts because they're no longer going to have a way to properly replenish their numbers if they're being, turned into zombies, or their chattel, their cattle, their pool of a host to pick from are suddenly, dead and being gnawed on.
Or you wind up with like an alien predator situation where
zombies versus slaads.
Oh,
ooh, that sounds like a cool one shot.
Oh, man, zombies give me nightmares.
Yeah, they're just being relentless, and they're just gonna keep going. So okay, that's pretty cool.
Just shuffling along. Well, I wonder then. I think the knowledge has come from probably the black or the death slaads telling him to do his job to dig.
I see.
Because our boy might not be able to put words together very well, but he's smart enough to listen to what he's been told when he is told to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so boss told me to dig. Crimson Solstice on the way. That's right.
I apologize.
That's right, puppy. That's right.
She's a big barker.
Of course, all of our NPCs want to have cool side quests to be able to offer the player characters, the heroes, the adventurers. So if you want to roll for this randomly, the last dice, a d12, or if you're inspired and you think it's something logical you can come up with, what's going to be the side quest that Sir Larl's going to offer?
I think it would be an indirect offer, whereas it's something that he's amassed, he's picked up. I think we'll have to roll for it, but I feel like he's picked something up in his hoarding.
Okay.
So smart enough to know that the blue thing controls him, so he keeps the blue thing. So I'm hoping we'll see what we get. Off the table. A 4.
A 4. Okay.
We like 4s tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I don't know if you think this makes sense. This was suggested by previous guest Nolan Page. Deliver a breeding pair of a rare species of animal to a reserve to help them repopulate their numbers. I don't know. That doesn't sound a whole lot.
I don't think anyone wants Slaad.
He wants to eat the animals. He doesn't want to save them. Maybe you could do another D12 roll. Maybe see if that sparks something.
5.
A 5. Okay. Well, this is suggested by previous guest Andrew Strother. Dying from an incurable disease, and they need help to get the cure. So is there a running clock or something like that? Is this something about the Crimson Solstice? Like a zombie came in and it's slowly, because he's chaotic, it's affecting the zombie virus is affecting him differently. And so he has this ticking clock where he needs to figure out a way to not become a zombie.
I like this. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We don't want the zombie slaad combo that is alien predator. So I don't think he wants to be zombified himself. He's still got to do his job, but you know, no one wants to get no one wants to be a zombie. No one. Right.
No one willingly wants to be a zombie. Is this something that he found in like a pocket where he was digging, and you know, and that's how he ended up getting bit? Because I feel like, yeah, like how, like, because do the rest of the slaad know that he's been bit by this zombie and is slowly being changed?
Oh, I think our boy might be responsible for unleashing the curse.
Oh, so he's the one.
Too far.
He was the one. Okay, so the black slaads knew this prophecy, but they didn't realize that by sending this guy, he's the one that's actually going to cause.
This particular guy is tenacious and has clawed his way into the tomb of a necromancer and has unwittingly started the clock.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah.
Suffering himself.
Okay, yeah. So then this is how it's different. So it's not just like a standard sort of like, oh, maybe like, and maybe a dungeon master could allow it of like, oh, if I have greater restoration, or if I have remove curse, or something like a super duper high level healing thing, maybe you could head it off at the pass that way. Or if you want to make it more of a challenge and be like, oh, there's something weird with this one because there's like necromantic magic like affecting it. So it's, I don't know the lore of actual Forgotten Realms, but wasn't there something called like the spell plague stuff? Maybe this is
spell plague.
Yeah. It's like some sort of like magic infused zombie virus or something like that. So it makes it so you have to go to the necromancer's actual dungeon in order to like clear it and then find the cure or whatever that Sir Larl needs in order to stop this Crimson Solstice from rising up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So what started off as a colony of slaads soon turns into a slog through 7 layers of a necromancer's dungeon or something like that. That's pretty cool.
Slaad slugging along with a party.
Ooh, oh yeah. You might be able to convince him to come with you. That'd be pretty cool, as long as he doesn't get too persnickety and start slicing away at the party, infecting them with tadpoles. You look fun. Slice. Like, oh, I don't feel well. Oh, because now, it's like it's a zombie variant slaad that they're getting infected with too. It's not just regular slaads. It's like they're birthing like zombified red and green slaads out the gate. And that's, like you were saying, is going to kickstart this Crimson Solstice into overdrive. I don't know. We've made a great NPC in side quests, and I hope everyone's inspired and decides to use this guy. If you need to shake up your world, this is the way to shake it up.
That's a big way to shake it up.
All right, so we know what the side
Patient
quest.
zero.
We know what the side quest is, and so the players are successful in finding the cure for this super zombie virus that's affecting the slaad. What's going to be the reward? How is Sir Larl going to reward the party? Is he going to give them some stuff from his blue hoard, or is it something else?
I would say they get the stash.
Okay.
The stash of items. He says you can take any shiny you want. You choose a shiny. Thank you for your help.
Ooh, okay, that's very cool. So yeah, like we were alluding to earlier, your pick of magic items, you know, from the mundane to the ridiculous. Why would the CR7 rating blue slaad have a Vorpal sword on their being that's blue? I don't know, but now your players have it. You know, and any fun thing that you want to introduce to your party, now this guy can be the insane reason as to why it can be introduced. So okay, very cool. So they get the hoard of all the blue items. Okay. It sounds like we've already figured out the flip side of the coin then. What's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure? You've now super turbocharged the zombie apocalypse. And so now it's like, you get zombified slaads that now ransack the town. And then from there, it spreads further and further. So yeah, and then it becomes like this weird, like, proxy war between these undead forces, because you have the zombies that are wanting to like eat, you know, the humanoids alive, you know, make more zombies slowly that way. But then you've got the slaads that are like, you know, they're chaotic, you know, they maybe have a little bit better control of their minds, and so then maybe they're a little more malicious, because it's like, no, we need to keep them alive for us so then we can make more zombified slaads and stuff like that. So yeah, like a real grim, dark, hollow sort of, like just everyone's having a miserable time in the apocalypse, and let's see if your ragtag group of heroes can save the day.
This is not where I thought this was going to go. Woo!
I know, this is fun. I'm already getting ideas of like, where in the world would I stick this in my game? Like, how tempting do I make it for like, oh, just a little blue slaad. Don't worry.
Just a sleepy little mining town in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly slaad.
Yeah, slaad.
Just
slaad. All right.
Laurel?
Yanni? Laurel? Yeah, so then we have optional questions as well, or do you think Sir Larl's pretty well figured out?
Let's take some of those optional questions. I feel like he's there, but just see what else we can add.
Sure. What are the goals and motivations of Sir Larl as a character?
Oh, he digs.
He jigs?
He digs. He digs and collects blue. That's it.
Okay.
Digs and blue.
There we go. And so how do these goals and motivations affect his general personality? Pretty one note and straightforward. As we said, he's focused, but he's gullible and, you know, and all that.
I would say he's pretty excited when he gets blue things, but he's definitely just intently focused on his job. He just wants to dig.
Okay.
He digs.
There we go.
I'm now thinking of the movie Holes. What do you do? Digging.
There we go. And then let's see. Are there any different ways that Sir Larl will interact with different groups of people? Say like other slaad versus like other creatures he comes across versus humanoids. Is there like nuance to how he is, or is he pretty like one note across the board?
I would say he's very submissive to other slaad. So he's very much, all he's there to do is his job, and he's waiting for somebody to tell his job. Now with other adventurers or critters that come in, or humanoids that come in, he would be very aggressive because they're getting in the way of his digging time.
Yeah.
And if they don't have anything blue, he wants nothing to do with them.
Yeah. Okay. So he could easily get, as we said, with his short temper, he could very easily turn antagonistic. And then, he's a CR7 blue slaad that the party has to fight. And then, maybe all the normal stat block stuff applies. But as we've said, he's infected with like this chaotic zombie virus thing. So now the ticking clock will start. And, if you want another way, I just thought if you want another way to really get the party to kickstart in this adventure, they go to like, oh, it's a slaad. We have to do the normal thing to cure it. Oh, the slaad tadpole isn't going away. It's still there because it's protected by this necrotic magic. So you have to like figure out where he was digging. And then you discover, oh, oh no, he tunneled in.
This is a big
Oh,
problem.
this is a big
Yeah.
problem. And now it's a ticking clock. So if you remove him from the board and you deal with him that way, then it's like the Suicide Squad movie, but instead of a bomb collar, you've got zombie slaad tadpoles inside of you that you need to deal with. Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't want to be this party. Stressful. Parasitic zombie virus. Yep. Okay.
I'm done. I'm checking out. It's like, no, we're all in this together. Like,
this could be a real problem for a new party, but also challenging enough for a mid-range party that are like, it's a slot. It's fine. Just avoid its claws. We'll be fine. No, we are not fine. In fact, this is much, much worse than we expected.
And then let's see. Are there any particular accents or languages that Sir Larl uses? Are there any idiosyncrasies in how he acts or speaks?
I would say he's very short and to the point.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I don't know how well you know Stargate SG-1. I'm dating myself a little bit here.
I remember it a little bit.
I think of Tilk. I think of Tilk. And his one-word answer is like, indeed. But maybe not as cultured.
So just, yeah, very, okay. Yeah. Okay, I get it. So like blunt, but like just like
very blunt.
Communicates in mostly grunts and growls and monosyllabic words. Yeah. Dig. Blue. Dig. Laurel.
Give blue.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I love this guy.
I even have a face for him already. This is great.
Let's see. What impact has Sir Larl made on the? What impact has Sir Larl made on the world? How has he shaped the local area? It sounds like he's got a bit of like a boogeyman story about him and his posse out in the cave. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, so imagine these villagers are already having trouble with the slaad, and then they discover if things go wrong, suddenly they've gone from, oh, we have a slaad problem to, oh, they're zombie slaads. That's this guy is a menace, and he is not even meaning to be. He's just trying to dig.
Yeah, and since we're considering that he's dug down into this dungeon of a necromancer, is there like a telltale tower somewhere nearby? Or is it like super far away? And so the fact is like, oh, he had to dig really far to get to this place. Or is it something that's like, oh, that's like a ruined old tower. No one knows what it was, but like it may have been something way off in the past. But, that was like, during the time of the War of the Gods. And it's just like a bunch of stones now at this point.
Yeah, it was a great tower during the Spell Plague. And it's assuming you're running a Forgotten Realms game.
Sure.
Saying that. I like the idea of it being a far distance off. Like, this guy is committed. His claws are worn down. He is beat up, and he has been working to get to.
Yeah, because they have to welcome in the Great Slaad Empire into this place.
Right. They need a home that's big, and he started digging and hit a cavern that widened out, and then he just kept going.
Okay, yeah, yeah, so you're like, how in the world did they get from like this side of the map all the way to this side of the map where this clearly evil necromancer that no one ever goes to visit this tower? Yeah, okay, very cool. And then
this guy's been dealt with already. What is happening?
Right, yeah, I thought these problems were all gone, but no, they've reared their ugly head once again.
Sounds like a necromancer.
Let's see. Does Sir Larl have any current problems that prevent him from being a bigger player on the stage? Is it the fact of his the hierarchy within slaads themselves, the ticking clock that is his zombie infection?
The ticking clock that is a zombie infection, but also, he digs really safe tunnels. He takes his time, and he might not be the brightest bulb, but he knows how to put structure in so that the tunnels don't cave in. So he's too busy doing that to really be a larger problem. It's just, he's a warning. He's a child's story. It's like you barely see this guy, but Sir Larl's been around enough that he's got a bit of a reputation.
And then just the only other final thing that I could think of, is there an obvious wound or place on his body that you would see this zombie bite. Because I'm sure he was able to deal with the zombie, like that surprised him and came out of nowhere. Because, you know, he's a CR7 dude and zombies are like half a percentage or what, a quarter
They're
of a
like half a
percentage or
CR,
whatever.
yeah.
So, yeah, like where is this bite? Or is it because of his chaotic flesh? Like, oh, it just formed up and you don't see it? Or because this is like a magical zombie virus, like, no, it left its mark and he's just kind of like, oh, I have like this weird scratch that I've, you know, it just kind of won't heal up. I don't know why, but I got to do my job and dig.
I can dig. I like the idea of an ankle biter. I really just the horror of like the legless zombie dragging itself towards you and getting bit on your ankle. He probably wasn't paying attention when it happened. It probably just happened and he smushed it.
Yeah, no, I could believe it. Like he just like gets a balled up fist, smashes it on the head.
Just
like
or a stomp.
that was a weird. Yeah, weird. Yeah, what was that? Scratch my ankle, thinking it's like a bug bite,
and then just kept going.
All right.
Yeah, I just have this mental image of him being like, "Huh?" Smack.
Yeah, that's probably exactly how it happened. So I would believe it. And yeah, now that we've made it through NPC creation, I think it's time we take Sir Larl and throw him into a random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by my sponsor, Zencastr. Zencastr came into my life when I didn't think I would need it, but now I definitely need it with trying to raise a family and keep the podcast episodes flowing and all that stuff, and not trying to keep myself awake for all hours of the night trying to get these episodes edited. Thanks to Dane and Benjamin over at Dispel Magic showing me this service, I was hooked. And I decided to become a paying member so I could get access to all these awesome tools with editing and getting these great episodes to you. So it is so easy and super easy now to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log into your browser and you start recording a high quality podcast right away. You could record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. A hard sell. On that point alone, I would, I've been podcasting for a couple of years now. That is amazing. So that is a great selling point of this service. You can sound your best. Have you ever worried what you might sound like on a podcast? With Zencastr's post-production process, it makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes the ums and ahs as you click on that feature in the post-production settings, and in your recordings, it's going to remove those awkward pauses and conversations too with the click of a button. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. It really is that easy. It's all in one. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are done. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and all other major podcast destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SIDEKQPodcast, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Again, the website, zencastr.com/pricing. Use the code SIDEKQPodcast and get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. Thank you so much to the sponsor, and back to the podcast. We are now here in the random encounter section of the show. So now we get to play a bit of D&D. We get to do a scene, a vignette with our character that we've made here. So we've got Sir Larl, the blue slaad, who's a slowly ticking time bomb of a super zombie virus. And I think Kay will do a wonderful job of maybe not necessarily the voice, but at least portraying the character. But the question becomes, who am I going to be in this scene? Am I going to be, dare I be one of my adventurer characters that stumbles upon Sir Larl and has to help him in this quest of finding the zombie cure? Am I one of the other slaad in this community that's like talking to Sir Larl? Or is this, like a peasant villager on a dare who stumbles into the cave and then comes across Sir Larl, and then, it's like a Freddy Krueger Texas Chainsaw Massacre ending or something like that.
Let's go with the villager.
Okay. All right. So I will be a villager in this scene as I do some very it's got to be a dude. There's no way that a proper lady in this day and age would go wandering around into caves by herself. Like, I know this is going to date the episode, and I know, there's this whole thing about like men or a bear in the woods and stuff like that. So, not to, be mean spirited or anything like that. But yeah, if it's like, even back then, it would be like, oh, do I, as a young peasant girl, wish to be in the woods? No, there's bears and there's strange men that are there. No, why would I go there at all? So, yeah, okay. So it's some teenager, we'll say a teenager, who stumbles his way into this cave on a dare, and will come across Sir Larl. So I will work to set the scene. So it's a sleepy hamlet, mining town. This is probably the same one that we allude to from the early episode that we did with Quando the Orc. Maybe this is the town on the other side of the forest that got these crystals, these power crystals that used to power the old machine in the hamlet that's on the other side of the forest that keeps the hell portal closed. And so this is during the heyday of the town, and ages past, and the village and the hamlet has its own mines that it works with, but they know not to go too far down because that's where Sir Larl lives. And it's often joked about in the taverns, and people get dared of like, oh, if you go stand in the mouth and yell his name, and if he doesn't come and get you, then you've proven that you're a man and that you're tough and brave, and you can maybe you can even wander into the dark woods and then really prove your bravery, kind of a thing. So we're gonna say that this teen, this lad, whose name we're going to say is Joe. Because there we go. Because I'm just looking at a thing, and that's the name I saw. So Joe the teenager,
Just a regular
Joe. He's the son of Joe Josen. So son of Joe. So yeah, he went forward on this dare from his other friends at the tavern, and he's tired of being made fun of, and he wants to prove himself. And they're kind of like a fars off from him as he's standing in the mouth of this cave. And they're like, no, you have to go in farther and really do this. And so what happens is Joe starts stepping in farther, but because of all the excavation work he's done, he didn't realize how steep the slope went. And so Joe takes one step too far with his torch. And suddenly he's like head over heels, falling down into this dark, deep tunnel, into this cave. And he lands with a crash. And he's like feeling he's like, that's gonna smart. My dad's gonna. He's not gonna be happy about this. I'm supposed to help him in the mines with getting more crystals, and where? And he's like trying to get his torch, but his torch is like barely lit at this point, and he's a basic peasant, so he doesn't have dark vision. So he's just like trying to keep this thing lit, and he's like looking around like, I guess I better do the dare before I like have to turn around and hobble out of here. But he'll be like, Sir Larl. There, I think I did it. But where's going to be Sir Larl at this point? He's heard this crash of like someone coming down the tunnel and now yelling his name a bunch of times.
He was just organizing his blue goods, his blue items. And instantly in a flash, he's turned around and he's stomping down the hall, and he started to get rage, and he goes,
and so this Joe is panicking, and so he's trying to scramble to get away, and he's like, no, and so he's like clawing with his hands and foot, but he's hobbling as well because he like hurt his leg real bad on the fall down. And so he's like scrambling on his hands and knees, but he catches a rock and it slides him all the way back down. And so he like finally turns around, and then what does he see? Like as like the barely flickering torch of his stick going.
I would say Sir Larl he's crouched and he's leaning in towards young man, taking a big sniff and just, you are not meant to be here. What you want?
Joe is like terrified. He's trying to reach for something on his neck. We'll say like he has like a very basic sort of like rudimentary holy symbol, because of the mining gods that they worship. And so he holds it up and he's just kind of like, oh, the powers keep you at bay.
What is that? I'm busy. I dig. What do you want?
He's just terrified more, and he's holding it up to you, and thinking like it'll repel you, as he's trying to get a good footing to scramble back. And is there a color that would set off Laurel?
I'm wondering what color, if this young man is strong in his faith, is his magic item glowing, or his religious icon glowing, and is it glowing blue?
See, I was thinking it was going to be the opposite effect, that it was going to be like there was just like a facet of some of the jewels coming off of it. Again, it's like a very basic sort of like holy symbol that a peasant or a miner would make. And maybe it's got like flecks of other different colored gems in it, so not blue. So you see everything but blue in it. And with his short temper and fuse, would that set him off?
No blue?
You
bring no blue. You interrupt dig. You need leave. No. And he just, without using his claws, open palm, kind of smack this boy's hand, or roll to smack.
Oh yeah, no. So the symbol goes flying out of his hand, and it like lands in the dirt. And okay, so he doesn't hit him with the claws, and so he's like yelling and actively terrified. And maybe because of the noise he's made, some of the other slaad that have been made in the interim, like some of the red and green ones, start peering out and looking at him, and they're croaking and they're speaking, their slaad language at Sir Larl, like what are you going to do with him? Like, is he going to have some tadpoles in him? Like, what's the deal? Is basically what they're communicating as this kid is trying to get away.
I think after hearing some of his den mates, Clutch, saying, hey, is he going to be a tadpole bearer? Is he like a meat suit? We're going to attempt to grab him by the leg and drag him deeper in and say, go back to digging. You make good host.
Ah! So he just gives out a very horror movie scream as he's plunged into the darkness, as he gets dragged by his ankles deeper in to this warren, this den of slaad, thereby cementing the terror of the local hamlet. And his friends who are above waiting, they've got torches waiting at the mouth of the cave, and they all look down and they hear that blood-curdling scream, and all of them are like terrified as well, and they take off running back to the hamlet. And yeah, poor Joe. Poor Joe. And scene. So there we go. How was it being Sir Larl?
Man, he's gonna eat that kid.
Well, I think they're gonna like lock him up, and then they're just gonna rake him with their claws, and then it's just like,
true.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Aliens. Yeah, it's just gonna be not good. Ugh.
Be a bad
well,
time.
If you wanted a horror NPC in side quest, this was the perfect episode to listen to, inadvertently. So hopefully it'll inspire your games. But there you go. Yeah, so we've made it through the random encounter, and now we're on the other side, and we're here in the final thoughts section of the show. We're here. We did it. Who knew? We're here. We made it once again. So how do you think your experience was back on the podcast?
Oh, it was great. This was great. Infinitely less nervous, and I definitely enjoyed rolling a random character, because you can plan all you want, but honestly, the best part about Dungeons & Dragons or any D20 tabletop game is using your imagination and the probability.
Yes. Indeed, yeah. We had no idea that we were going to end up with super zombies this episode, but here we are.
Wow. I walked into this leaning more into comedy, and here we are.
I mean, you can still go Army of Darkness sort of comedy levels, I suppose. You know, you put a little Bruce Campbell spin on it.
What is it? Shaun of the Dead?
Shaun of the Dead. There you go. That's another good one.
Oh.
And as we're here in the final moments of the show, I always like to leave it to the guests. So, you know, any other closing remarks you have about your experience, the show in general, and then, you know, if you want to be found on social media, you can plug that, or any other projects you're working on. And if there's any passions or causes we need to be made aware of, lay it on us.
You can find me on Instagram at k.org. I am not on any other social media, available on any other social media. It's just the one, because that's all I can tolerate. Cause-wise, it's really working in the industry I work in now. Literacy is so important, especially with having a senior citizen in my home who can't read very well. Setting kids up to read early and continuing, that's what we do. We set them up early and continue to track their their progress. So we teach kids to learn to read so they can read to learn. So, hey, the simple thing I could say is read to your kids at night.
Indeed, yes. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, with our loves of fantasy and D&D and science fiction and all that, you've got a load of library books at your disposal to be able to read to your kids at night. So get them started with The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or some of these other ones that exist out there.
Narnia or The Hobbit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I think you said The Hobbit.
Yeah, and then let's get those kids reading so then we can get more future D&D players.
Exactly. Spark their imagination early, and maybe one day you'll wind up with not just readers, but writers too.
There we go. Well, Kay, thank you so much for being back on the show, back on the podcast. I can't wait to have you back on once again, making even more interesting NPCs. Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Overcast, or YouTube, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app or player of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram/Threads, Twitter/X, and Reddit by searching for Side KQ Podcast. You can also find our small Discord community as well online. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. And hey, if you'd like to hail the bard and send me a message, an email, you can do so by communicating with sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars, please, to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. As mentioned in the NPC creations section of the podcast, I do in fact have a Patreon for Sidekicks and Sidequests. If you love this podcast and what we're trying to do here, I would appreciate it if you would just go to the website, patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic accommodations await, and we welcome all patrons to the Levitating Platter. Seriously, your financial support allows for this passion project to continue to invest in itself through the tools that will take our production to the next level, as well as provide more content for our patrons and the community at large. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you can.
Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy.
Meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards.
Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast.
Copyright Wizards of the Coast,
LLC.
Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.